All right, well, our match is ready. Let's go ahead and check out some magic. We have David Inglis, our now 8-0 player, undefeated today on Sultai Ramp, squaring off against Ryuji Murae on Rakdos Sacrifice.
Yeah, Village Rise is such a ridiculous pickup from M21 for these decks. With Cat Oven banned, there's now just space to just like max out on these if you want to, and it looks like we have done exactly that from Ryuji's side of things.
All right, Inglis is going to be on the play here because of that undefeated run. We see a Sultai Triumph to start. And we'll see what Ryuji can do to get on the table. We see an Archfiend's Vessel. This one, a new one from Core Set 2021, getting some time in the sun.
Yeah, really good with Call the Death Dweller as well as Lure to the Dream Den. This deck is very low to the ground, only 1s and 2s as far as permanents are concerned, to allow Lurrus as a companion. And while it's not as good as it was the first time around, it's still quite potent in this deck.
Thought Erasure from Inglis is going to take a look at a hand of Mountain, Blood Crypt, Claim the Firstborn, Mire Triton, and Village Rites. Titan's going to bite it. Inglis is going to look at an Uro off of the Surveil. Yeah, that's a pretty easy one to put in the bin. That'll be back later.
Yeah, it's actually exactly where you want it to be. The front half, if you have Cultivate, the front half is like just a stepping stone to get to the back half. Like the back half's the money.
Vessel coming in. You see Ryuji deploy Weaponize the Monsters. This is a card we didn't see too much pre-ban. It's a really nice sacrifice outlet. For 2 mana, you can turn any of your creatures into a shock.
Yeah, and without Cauldron Familiar, there's very little reason to play something like Witch's Oven when you can just play something like Weaponize the Monsters. Being able to use those sacrifice effects to target creatures on the battlefield to kind of clean up in the other aggressive matchups is a really nice way to help out in like the mirror matches and things like that.
Cultivate on turn 3 for Inglis. Go find a couple lands, put one on the battlefield. You're going to see Ryuji use Village Rites, draw some cards. Hand a little gunked up with 2 Claim the Firstborns now, but Priest of Forgotten Gods is deployed.
Yeah, but now Inglis is untapping without a whole lot of pressure on himself and a lot to do. It's going to be interesting to see how he navigates this next few turns.
Yeah, kind of options aplenty here. Teferi, Master of Time is kind of the easiest, very mana-efficient way to spend the turn.
Yeah,
other options are like Heartless Act or Ether Gust. Here comes Teferi. Something that I really like about this play is Teferi gets looting quickly. That means as early as next turn that Uro can be escaping.
Exactly. Wouldn't be surprised to see the Ether Gust go, but one of these lands could go as well.
Yeah, with 3 of them, you're a little heavy on land.
Yeah, but every land is just fine when you have Euro just continually letting you play more and more, and you have Krasis to reward you for hitting every single land drop in the deck.
Gutterbones joins the party, but Claim the Firstborn doesn't have a lot to do. Ryuji actually thinking about hasting up this Gutterbones.
Yeah, he could have hasted the Gutterbones. I think Claim the Firstborn untaps it as well. So would have gave it haste untapped to let him attack the Teferi for an extra 1. Right. Or an extra 2, rather. And then he could use Weaponize the Monsters to kill it. But that's a ton of resources to put into it. Not the hugest fan.
Teferi gonna do some looting. Get to loot on everybody's turn with Teferi. Another land picked up. At this point, though, Inglis did loot 1 away. So a little bit more valuable, but still has a land drop rolled up. And another one coming off the top. Pretty good on that front. So you see land number 6. It's Fabled Passage. Let's go find an island. It looks like Uro's going to escape and leave up Ether Gust mana while it's at it.
Yeah, I've seen some chatter about Teferi. The new Teferi being like pretty powerful. A lot of people in chat were talking about it earlier. The fact that he can use his ability on anyone's turn, it makes him quite good in Commander because you get a bunch of extra turns. But in Standard, I think his real strength just comes from enabling Euro Titan of Nature's Wrath. You know, like the constant looting on both turns means you're just speeding up the time it takes to escape it from the graveyard while sculpting your hand, and ticking up effectively for 2 loyalty a turn. It's not quite as impressive as some of the other planeswalkers we've seen as far as dominating the battlefield or generating just absurd amounts of snowball type mana or cards, but it's still quite strong.
Yeah, it's a very, very plainly balanced around 2-player games, but like you said, the Uro eating off those cards in the graveyard, that's the big win for the card.
Right. What do you do if you're the Rakdos deck?
Ryuji's materials are not very exciting. So here's Claim the Firstborn. That's what Ether Gust can target, though Ryuji does have the backup Gust. Or sorry, Claim.
Yeah, the Gust, I actually kind of expected him to target his own Euro because like casting it off on the next turn doesn't seem too bad. I guess he could also minus the Teferi on it. How does phasing work with taking control of stuff? I honestly have no idea.
That's a great question, Todd. Teferi is going to phase the Uro, so maybe Inglis knows something. We won't find out, though. Village Rights will sacrifice it.
I mean, there's literally no way to know. If you tried to dig up the rules for phasing, you'd have to go look at like the player's handbook from 1994. You'd have to look at the pre-release kit from I don't know, Allegiance or whatever. I don't even remember the name of the set.
You talking about Visions?
No, it's the one with the flag.
Alliances?
Alliances. That's the one with all the bands.
Yeah. Legions is like 2002.
Whatever. Dude.
Which sounds like it was a long time ago, but the game was, almost 10 years old.
There is no way that Allegiance came out in 2002. I will bet.
Legions. You said Legions.
Alliances. Whatever.
Yeah. You said. I
said Allegiance.
I was telling you that Legions was very wrong.
Thanks for telling me. Appreciate it.
Legions was the most recent set when I started playing, so that's a very important note for me. All right, now we see Claim on a Hydrate Crisis. Get some chip shots in. Inglis down to 13, and that Priest can sacrifice the Crisis as well. But there's another Crisis looming, and Uro is waiting to escape at some point here.
Yeah, even the Casualties of War can take down a creature, a land, and the weaponize the monster. So it's going to be a pretty juicy one next turn too. A lot of options. A lot of options here.
Here comes a Fiend Artisan. Pretty rad card. We did not really see this card before bans, but it's a nice toolbox, sort of a Birthing Pod-esque. You can sacrifice a creature, pay X and 1 mana, and go find another creature from your deck with mana cost X and put it on the battlefield.
Yeah, Ross Merriam put it to great use in Pioneer in an Abzan Rally deck. It worked really well in that. It's just a Tarmogoyf of sorts that could tutor up various creatures that triggered when other stuff died,
And just as soon as it was discovered, it has gone extinct, as extinction events can exile all of Ryuji's creatures, and Uro will escape.
Oh. It was all the global warming, and now Euro Titans of Nature's Wrath going to come down, put the hammer down on us.
It's like, Claim on Uro. All right. Ryuji's still getting some shots in.
Yeah, got a real game here.
Uro connects Inglis to 8.
All of a sudden, Inglis is at 6 because of the weaponize the monsters, with Priest of Forgotten Gods going to be on the battlefield as well. This is like a little scary,
I agree with a little scary. This Casualties of War cleans up pretty nicely, though. You do have to be concerned about that Luris. Inglis is going to survey the situation before doing too much. Yeah, has enough lands that starting with Nissa is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, you can start with Nissa, then tap 3 lands to play Casualties of War, lol. And then untap 1, attack for 3, and then play either Heartless Act or a 2/2 Hydro Crisis, or escape Euro if he has enough cards in the graveyard, but I don't think he has enough cards in the graveyard.
All right, so here is Nissa.
Maybe just goes for a big Krasis instead of the Casualties of War.
Nissa wakes up a forest. Here's an attack. That part, not the important part of the turn.
Right. I'm curious. I think it's only 2 claim the Firstborn have been gone through. One of them got hit with an Ether Gust, so I think there's still potentially 2 left in the deck. So, like, making a big Hydro Krasis actually has some diminishing returns against a card like that.
Yeah, some potential downside there. The life cushion is nice, though. The auto tap solution has changed. Here comes Hydroid Krasis for 8. There is a Fabled Passage. Unfortunately, not leaving anything up right now, but might not need anything, as going up to 10 life is pretty significant.
Yep, now Lurrus can come down. You can cast the Archfiend's Vessel from the graveyard, and that's going to allow for a 5/5 demon. You can also use Priest of Forgotten Gods somewhere in there to do some more damage. You can also just get back Meyer trying to do a little life gain strategy. A lot of different options here.
Here comes Lurrus of the Dream Den.
Right,
a once feared card.
Are you a Dream Dash Den or a Dream Space Den kind of guy?
I'm a mad about the question kind of guy.
You know, I too am mad about the question, but I answered it.
Yeah, well, I mean, to shine some light on the situation for viewers that are maybe a little less tuned into this sort of thing, Lurrus of the Dream-Den shows up in some search engines for some programs with the hyphen and some without. So if you export a deck file from some sources and import it into Magic Online, it will tell you that you have an illegal deck because the hyphen is there or missing, whichever way it's supposed to be. So that's why I'm mad about the question.
I'm sorry. It's so bad. I didn't mean to cause an international incident, Ryan.
Yeah,
just making a joke.
Tensions are high in the hyphen community. And now it's time for Casualties of War. Lurrus, weaponize the monsters. Castle Loxlane, that's a good land to destroy too. Heartless Act, hanging out in backup. Pretty reasonable to just deal with Priest of Forgotten Gods now. You can wait, though. There's only one other creature currently.
I'll wake up a land. A slam here for 11 is a pretty big game.
Mire Triton, not going to block the land. Going to hang out to be food for the Priest. That is one of the better options Ryuji has to claw back into this game. Though these Heartless Acts in Inglis's hand probably close that off.
Yeah, Heartless Act on the Priest of Forgotten Gods should be like enough, but then like also if you add in a medium-sized Hydroid Krasis onto it, it's like even worse.
Here is yes, I'd say 4/4 Hydroid Krasis is the default medium size.
Even maybe go for a front half a Euro to gain some life and still Heartless Act, or just double Heartless Act. Doesn't matter. None of this matters. Just say Smith or Jones or something.
And David Inglis gonna be up a game in our top 4 here. Has not lost a match today. On the other side of the bracket, we're looking at the bracket. We are looking on the same kind of matchup, and on that side, game 1 went the same way. Our Rakdos Sacrifice player is down a game to our Sultai Ramp player.
All right. Well, maybe we'll come out with a clear-cut winner here. Sultai Ramp up a game in both sides. If it ends up being both decks in the finals, it's going to be pretty impressive stuff. I mean, it's week 1. All the cards they're casting are just inherently powerful. Not E2 Extinction. But Extinction Event is just like a really nice tool. It's easy to cast. It gives them a lot of outs against creature rushes early, which is usually one of the weaknesses to ramp strategies. That coupled with all of the 2-mana interaction, and you have a recipe for disaster.
And kind of
Or
a really
success, your choice.
nice setup we've seen kind of throughout the tournament is turn 2, some kind of interaction, be it Thought Erasure, be it a removal spell. Turn 3, Uro or Cultivate as some kind of ramp. Turn 4, Extinction Event. If you have the turn 5 Nissa, great, but from that point, you have really diminished your opponent's ability to be competitive in the game.
I think the real story of this tournament is just how outrageous Nissa Who Shakes the World has been. I mean, we've always known it was a busted card. You know, it was honestly one of the reasons why the mono green devotion deck in Pioneer was so good, and it still is. We've seen it just time and time again in Standard. It just so happens that we had 2 other ridiculous mana generators in the format that cost 1 less mana. And Fire's Invention and Water's Reclamation.
Yeah, they didn't go light on that stuff.
Look, they're just gonna slowly let Nissa Who Shakes the World fade away in 90 days, and then after that, what's the Sultai Graveyard mana engine?
Oh, I forget the name of the card, but yeah, it's a 4-mana enchantment, and you can basically delve all of your spells.
Titan's Nest, that's the one. Yeah, once the rotation comes, Titan's Nest is going to be tier 1.
It's waiting.
You better remember that name, Titan's Nest. Look, everyone thought Pack Rat was a joke. It was like really strong and limited, and like some people played it in Constructed, and I was just like, haha, why are you playing that limited bomb in Constructed? And it's like, turns out they just printed like 20 cards for Mono Black Devotion, and Pack Rat's just like the perfect card for it. And like, you know, if they just like reprint Satyr Wayfinder or whatever, you know, Titan's Nest just becomes outrageous. Like it's just another mana engine.
We'll see how that one plays out. Here in our
makes 2 mana.
Semifinals, we see Dreadhorde Butcher going to work. Thought Erasure sees a hand with a couple dresses, leaves those with Croxa. A lot of hand disruption going on here in this game.
Yeah. But the real story is that the Dreadhorde Butcher did not get affected, right? It was able to connect. It got a little bit bigger. E2 Extinction's a card that could be pretty scary, but a second Dreadhorde Butcher off the top here and taking the Extinction event with a duress might actually just give Ryuji the boost he needs to take this game.
So duress, take your sweeper, jam with another Butcher. Inglis to 14. Butchers get cranked. Here's event off the top. That one is not yet castable. I imagine Inglis is going to Agonizing Remorse to get that duress.
Yup. What a top deck. Extinction event taken or peeled off the top. The Remorse takes a duress to protect it.
I mean, that was just a high information setup for Inglis, right? That was a surveil to the top, knowing that duress on Extinction event was a factor here.
Oh, right. No, yeah, just sequence it nicely. Yeah, you're right.
Ooh, Inglis to 8. This weaponized the monsters represents a lot of damage. So the game
4.
is not over. The 16th event cleans up the battlefield, but some damage coming Inglis's way is first.
Yeah, I mean, this is 6 going straight to face. Croxa is not going to be lethal, though, because a spell can be discarded.
Well, with a land. With an untapped land, the Croxa is lethal because of weaponize.
Oh, no.
But this Claim the Firstborn, that's not going to do it. So Inglis is going to discard a spell. You know, there's no lands in hand. No way to get burned by that.
I'm so mad. I'm not that mad. I just want to see a game 3.
This claim could still very easily be lethal.
Yeah, and it's also a hidden claim. And that Hydra Crisis is looking like a real juicy play here. And that's going to do it. He's going to play the Hydra Crisis. Claim the Firstborn plus weaponize the monsters is going to take down this game. We're going to have a game 3 here.
Hydra Crisis looking like a snack. Here's the claim.
Trainer!
And a bash. Weaponize your face. And Ryuji Murae going to tie things up. We're going to game number 3.
It's like my favorite part of episode 7.
When the stormtrooper challenges Finn to a fight.
Yes. And then you see, like, you know, the defensive weapons that the stormtroopers get that actually can, like, fight lightsabers, which is kind of rad.
Yeah, that's a fine scene.
All right. Not a ton of changes here, but for game 3, I don't think play draw changes a lot of the tools at their disposal. You know, it's not like being on the play makes claim the firstborn better or worse, I don't think.
Yeah, that it's just way more contextual on where the game ends up than anything.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we are looking at opening hands for game number 3. You know, I'd be into Ryuji's hand with a second red source, but it looks like it's a keep anyway. And we are getting started. First play of the game, going to be a duress. Let's take a look at Inglis's hand. Fabled Passage, Swamp, Negate, Agonizing Remorse, Heartless Act, Extinction Event, all interaction all the time.
Yeah, that Negate, I would be pretty happy to just leave that rotting in hand. The Agonizing Remorse threatens to take your Kroxa permanently because of the exile. So I like taking that to protect your Kroxa, since that is one of your ways to potentially win the late game. And the Kroxa is super good with Village Rights turn from now.
Saw Ryuji kind of hanging out with that Fabled Passage, considering that as the land for turn to set up the following turn, getting Kroxa. Drew Fiend Artisan, landed on the Fabled Passage though, wants to get the red mana going.
Seems like it might be just walking into the Negate now. I liked playing a creature while the shields were down. Now you basically time walked yourself, and you're going to let this Heartless Act that you know about just be a straight Doomblade with a free untap, you know?
Well, I mean, here's Priest of Forgotten Gods. If the Heartless Act shows up, you just fire off the rights, right?
Oh, sure. No, that makes perfect sense. So maybe you're just bottlenecking them into doing nothing. I thought they were going to go for the Kroxa turn, which is why they played the Fabled Passage last turn. But the Priest of Forgotten Gods play here makes sense with full information for sure.
Yeah, it was just opening up options is all. There was no red mana until this Blood Crypt showed up.
Yeah, but if you had played the Priest last turn, they would have had to like either main phase the Heartless Act or say go. And then the turn after, I mean, you still don't have red mana. It's all contextual. You're right. You know, it's just about opening up options.
Here is a thought erasure for Inglis. Held on to that Heartless Act. Kind of, you enter this interesting game where players know a good chunk of the other player's hand. Mm-hmm. Didn't want to walk that Heartless Act into Village Rights. And now gets to use thought erasure to bust up the hand a little.
What do you take here with thought erasure? I'm actually not sure. Like, the Village Rite seems like the obvious one, but like as the game progresses, it might just be better to take the Fiend Artisan so that there's no real battlefield presence next turn.
Inglis is gonna take Village Rights. I'm into that. There's a lot of situations you end up in where one non-creature spell can be a really big deal. If you take the one in hand, like the Negate won't immediately have an impact, but you're very likely to find the window later. And kind of the silliest we see Negate look is when the Sacrifice deck just jams 2 Claim the Firstborns in the same turn, or 2 relevant spells in the same turn.
Right, that's just like trying to play a situational counterspell against a deck that's just full of really cheap stuff, you know?
Mm. So here's Fiend Artisan into the front side of Kroxa. Inglis is looking at 2 creatures that get swept by Extinction Event, so I can't imagine we're discarding that one.
No, I think he was considering using the Heartless Act on the Priest in response to the Kroxa, so that this specifically could not happen right now.
So the Priest goes off. I mean, some damage coming upstairs, and Ryuji draws a card. Now we see Kroxa is going to take something from Inglis's hand.
I'd probably just discard the Negate, honestly. Its time is like basically gone. The land on top is making this hard, though, you know? Because, like, does he want to shuffle it away with Fabled Passage? Probably not. But then he can't use Heartless Act.
Priest mana, cast Archfiend's Vessel. Now it's time for English to jam this Nissa. Also allows the untapping of a Triome to leave up Heartless Act.
Yeah, you can use that to either take care of the Priest of Forgotten Gods or wait for the Kroxa to come down and then target that. But may just want to protect his hand and discard the Heartless Act to the Kroxa and then untap an Extinction Event on even. He'll lose his land, but it gets rid of the Priest and the Kroxa.
Triumph attacks, Rage to 17. Go back that way. Another Archfiend's Vessel picked up. Fair one to sacrifice to the Priest. There is that activation. Land goes down.
It didn't give him priority to cast the Heartless Act. It was Ketria Triome. He couldn't cast Heartless Act. It's the one Ketria Triome. I thought it was the Sultai Triome.
God,
I think he did too.
Zagoth
He just.
Triome.
Oh no.
Yeah, I saw the review of the graveyard there. All right, well, now things look really interesting on Ryuji's side of things. There's still the Nissa hanging out, which is a problem. There's still some face-up removal spells. But Luris added to the hand. Here's a Mire Triton deployed. Some good value plays on the horizon for Ryuji.
Yeah, for sure. Ryuji has the Luris plus multiple vessels in the graveyard that can just turn into 1-mana 5/5s. Has the Kroxa, which can come back and strip a card, as well as just be a 6/6 body that's super threatening. The Nissa Shakes the World's still around, but there's not a whole lot of actual like food left for it.
Now, if you're Inglis, is it time to Extinction Event, or do you just have to wait?
I think you Extinction Event, shock with Watery Grave, untap a land and attack, and then hold up Heartless Act on Luris in response to like Fiend Vessel, or you can kill the Kroxa in response to it animating.
The play is going to be Fire Up Island and attack. That's going to trade. The texture of those combats are really interesting when both players know about Extinction Event.
Right.
It's like Inglis is getting aggressive because the plan is eventually to sweep things up, and Ryuji's thinking, well, you're going to kill my stuff anyway, so let's go ahead and simplify the battlefield.
This has been a heck of a game.
Might be time for Kroxa to escape. We've seen a lot of Uros. I gotta say, Kroxa's a breath of fresh air comparatively.
It's not nearly as oppressive, but it's still quite strong. I mean, there's a reason you're seeing it in like modern Jund. It pairs really nicely with Luris to give you kind of this like repeatable discard effect from the graveyard if you want it. It's also representing just like burst damage once your opponent's basically out of resources from hand.
Hey, nobody is calling the card weak. I'm just saying it's different.
Oh, right. No, I mean, I'm just stressing that even though we haven't seen a ton of it, it's very good.
Yeah, I've done some work with this card in Pioneer. All right, there is Kroxa. The Kroxa animation is not nearly as menacing as the Uro activation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to get a land out of Inglis's hand. That means 3 damage going upstairs. Inglis to 13. The Priest has some food now. No creatures on the other side, so probably no rush on activating that. Let's see what Inglis wants to do to clean up here. The Kroxa and the Priest are both vulnerable to Extinction Event, but if you don't use the Heartless Act on the Priest now, the Kroxa can end up back in the graveyard. I suppose it's going to either way. This is just like super like wide open. How to play this is very complicated because both players have all the information.
Right.
Okay, so Inglis does not use anything with the Heartless Act end step. Now we see the Extinction event. I imagine you sacrifice. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to lose everything except the Archfiend, and I'd rather have two...
Ooh, huge pickup. Noxious Grasp. That happens with the Extinction event on the stack. That means no land is activated this turn. That Nissa is down.
Oh, that's such a like minor misstep that almost never punishes you, but in this particular spot is just so incredibly brutal.
Well, it's not even a misstep. What are you supposed to do? Wake up your land and then exile it to your Extinction
Oh
event?
yeah, no, there's just no way out. No, you're right, dude. You're right. That's just unfortunate.
Yeah, that is a bad swing for English. Now let's see what Ryuji can do to capitalize on it. Lurrus is already in hand. You might just see a 5-5 show up. How about a 6-6, though? Here is Kroxa. Yeah. Inglis held onto a land. It's a card you can discard to Kroxa, but that means taking 3 damage, and that means spending your only card to trade with a creature that just keeps coming back. Meanwhile, you're getting hit by this Dreadhorde Butcher. Inglis is 7. Here's an Ether Gust, but only one of these spells is castable this turn.
Yeah, and he can't keep up with what's on the other side of the battlefield. And if that Lurrus is in hand now, he's already paid the 3 mana. There's Archfiend Vessel in the graveyard. At a whim, he could make a 5/5 for 1 mana as well. Lurrus.
Yeah, Vessel's not bad. The other thing you can do is just cast Lurrus and then just cast Kroxa for 2 and get the rest of the hand.
Right, get the rest of the hand.
Ether Gust on Kroxa after the draw step, so we're trying to play around that. I like that navigation from Inglis, but there are still problems as this Butcher is going to knock him to 5.
Yeah, varying your casting cost here actually makes a lot of sense too. You get the Fiend from the graveyard. It makes a 0, but your Lurrus at 3 and Butcher at 2 cost, as well as Gutterbones at 1, means an Extinction event off the top is not enough, and that's gonna do it.
Just Heartless Act, and David Inglis's undefeated streak in this tournament today comes to an